What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to Jam with Jock. Chords and music theory can be a difficult concept to wrap your head around as a beginner producer. Thankfully, in today's society, we don't need to be classically trained musicians to be good producers. In saying that, it's very helpful to know the basics of music theory and chords, and that's what today's video is going to be about. It's going to be broken down into 4 different sections. The first one being Ableton scale functions. The second part being major and minor chords and how to make them. And then we're going to be talking about inversions before finally finish with chord progressions. By the end of this video, you'll have enough confidence to make your own chord progressions and also be more comfortable to work in key within your songs. So let's go ahead and get stuck into it. In the last couple of Ableton updates, there's been some really good scale functions that have been added, and this is really helpful for beginners to stay in key. So firstly, we've got the scale of the track up here. And so once you set that, every time you open a MIDI clip, it's going to be in that key of the scale. So just creating a MIDI clip by pressing Command-Shift-M. I've got C major up here. So now when I open this MIDI clip, all these purple notes are in the scale of C major. To make things even easier, you can press this highlight scale function, and now every purple line is in scale. So on the left, we've got the notes of the scale, and then on the right, we've got the modes. We've also got some really nice MIDI effects, which is really handy for beginners. So if we go down to MIDI effects, and then we've got this chord MIDI effect here. If we open up the preset tab, we can press major chord, for example, and you just need to press a single note and it makes a chord for you. So I'll press C and I'll get C major. Just so you can visually see that. I'm just playing this single note. So if you wanted to go a C major chord into an E major chord into a G major chord, that's just a nice easy way to generate chords just from one single note. I personally don't use that MIDI effect though, because I want to have a bit more control over my chords, but I think it's still a nice MIDI effect to use if you're a beginner. And at the end of this video, I think you'll be confident enough to make your own chords without having to use that MIDI effect. 2 most common scales used in modern music are the major and minor mode. The general rule of thumb is that major sounds more happy and minor sounds more sad. The great thing is there's a formula to create both a major and a minor chord. So to create a major chord, we can click any note and it's the same formula for any note. For a major, you go up 4 steps and then up 3 steps to create a major chord. So we're going up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So now we've got F major. And to make that into a minor, we're just going to take this middle note down a step, or flatten it as they like to say. So when I was first starting out in my music theory journey, I wrote these formula on the wall. So major equals 047 and minor equals 037. And knowing that formula, it's just a great way to start making music and making your own chords, because you want a major chord, you want something to sound happier or maybe more bold, you know it's a 047, and this works for any note on the scale. So just going to go up 1, that's the F sharp major now, G major, so on and so forth. And so you might be able to hear what I'm talking about by the happy versus sad. So this is a G major, quite bright and happy, and then flat the B. I'll take this one down a semitone, a bit more suspenseful. So now that we know the functions that are in Ableton to help us become more familiar with the scale that we're in, we know major and minor chords. We know that major's essentially happier, minor's a bit more sadder, and we know the formulas to get them, 047 being major, 037 being minor. We can now look at inversions. So I'll just make a simple chord progression here. Inverting a chord is essentially just taking one of the notes up or down an octave. So say we take this E up an octave by pressing Shift up. It creates more space in that chord, and so you're changing the whole dynamic of the chord really, because this one's a bit more deeper, and by putting it up an octave, you're brightening it up because that top note is higher than the original note being G. So that's just a really great way to create more chords out of just a standard chord progression, because there's only a certain amount of chords in each scale, and it's obviously been used many times before, a lot of these chord progressions. So by taking things up and down an octave, it creates a different chord and it creates different emotion. So if I'm inverting some of my chords, I'm not thinking too much about it. I'm not thinking I need to invert this or I need to invert that. I just play around with the shift function and just trying to space things out a bit. And I think by doing that, it's just you're really trusting your ear, which is the most important thing I think in music productions. So I'll just have the original chords and I'm going to duplicate them over. I'm going to press Command J, group that together, and we'll have the first chords being the original ones and the second ones being the inverted ones. See the different emotions that we get by simply just taking one note up an octave. Now that we know inversions are just simply taking a note up an octave, and that can be great to create a different emotion and also create a bit of uniqueness to our chords, let's have a look at some chord progressions. Just like how there's a formula for creating major and minor chords, there's also a formula for creating chord progressions. So each chord in a scale has a corresponding number next to it. So there's 7 notes in a scale. So what I like to do is go online and just find chord progression that I can use in my own songs. So I've used a ChatGPT before, so I could look up, say, hip hop chord progressions. And see how it's giving me a Roman numeral number. So each scale, I could then grab the first, the fourth, and the fifth chord from that scale, and then that's a good way to get started. So let's just say we want to work in E flat minor. We'd look up E flat minor chords. Chords in the... All right, so E flat minor would be the first, and then second, third, all the way up down to D flat major would be the 7th. So we set our D flat minor we're in. We'll just create a MIDI clip, Command Shift M, and the first one we already know it's the E flat minor. So again, minor 0, 3, 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right. So we're going to be using the 1, 4, 5. So first being the E flat minor, fourth being A flat minor, fifth being B flat minor. So all minors, so all we have to do is go up to the A flat, and then the B flat, the G sharp and A sharp on here. This is where I like to use inversions as well, because I feel like those chords go up a bit too high. So maybe I might try and invert the top note, then that down, and I'll do the same with the E sharp. To me, that sounds better. And so that's what I would really suggest to do, is to visually see what's going on and see there's a bit of a jump there and it's probably going to be too high. And for me, that doesn't sound that good when it's too much of a jump in range of octaves. So taking them down an octave, we're now just simply going up a semitone from each chord. That leads me to my next point, which is talking about a concept that's used in music theory called the leading tone. So the leading tone is the top note of any chord. And whenever I'm writing a chord progression, I often start by tapping the top note and what it would sound like. And so from there, you can actually create the chord around that top note. So if you can't hear when you're pressing the piano on the side here, just go ahead and press the headphone button here. So I'll delete these second two chords actually. And so I'll just use an example, creating a chord from using the leading tone. So I want to go. All right, I'll just go A sharp to D sharp to C sharp. So this is going to be a minor again, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then I want it to go down to C sharp. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And now we've gone up to a major, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's a great way if you have the sound in mind that you want and you want to just press the notes here and just maybe play a little melody first. It's an awesome way to do that first and then actually build your chords around that now that you know the formula to create a major and a minor chord. And having that highlight scale function turned on as well just makes that a whole lot easier because you're not just thinking the whole time, is this note in the scale that I'm after? So now that we know the scale functions in Ableton, we know how to make a major and a minor chord, we know how to invert a chord, and we now know how to make our own progressions. Let's go ahead and make one from scratch. Sorry to interrupt the video, guys. I just was editing this last section of the video and I've seen there's a lot of microphone problems. So if there's any words that you can't hear or understand, then don't be shy to ask me what I was saying down below and I'll be happy to get back to you. I'm still trying to figure out this whole YouTube editing and filming thing, so bear with me please, and I'll make sure the next ones are better. So thanks for your patience. We'll turn our scale function off, and something I like to do when I have my drums laid down, I like to have a note playing, and when I hear a sound that sounds good, or when I hear a sound that resonates with the drums, I like to then go in that scale. Right. Usually like starting the progression with the chord of the key that we're in. So F sharp minor, 0, 1, 2, 3, 7, F sharp minor. We haven't touched on it yet, but the chords that sound great that I might use in this progression, which is, so you take the middle note of a minor chord and you take it down one, turning it into a sus2. So that's a sus2 because we've got the first note and then the second note, and then sus4. This note, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Really nice suspenseful sounding chord. So we'll go with the F sharp minor and then we'll go with the F sharp sus4. Then we're going to use our leading tone technique as well. We're going to go 1, 2, go with that. So F up. Because we know the formula to creating chords, super easy to use that leading tone. And then we're just going to, we've got 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, B minor. Then we've got our, A major. As I touched on before, I like to visually see the chords and jump for me. So I might actually take that leading tone down once, and then I don't mind this. I don't want that D to, now that's a D instead of an F sharp as the leading tone. I want it going down to the A. So to do that, I'm just going to take these two down. doesn't sound too bad, but I think we can get this fourth chord sounding. So we'll stick with the leading tone of the E. Might try an actual original chord would be major and E sus 2. We'll try this time. I wouldn't mind this progression to actually just be 3 chords. Might sack the 4th one. Sounds. Not too bad. I think that's better. We can actually then turn this into an 8-bar loop. And then maybe just to turn it into a longer loop, we can change this. Yeah, maybe we could take this last one up an octave. I just realized that all the root notes have been the F sharp, so that might be nice to change that up. There you have it, guys. That's pretty much all you need to know to make your own chords today. Now you know the formula to create chords, which is such an easy tool, especially by using that leading tone technique to just build chords around that leading tone. You can also use your eyes to then see if something needs to be inverted, or just use your ears and just invert anything up and down, shift it. That's what I love to do, just experiment really. So hopefully it's shown you that music theory and chords doesn't need to be an overwhelming concept for beginners. And just by using a few of these simple principles, you can create some really nice chord progressions yourself. If you have any questions about scales or the chords, don't be shy to drop them down below. And if you learned something today, I'd love if you could hit that like and subscribe button. If you wanted to go ahead and watch one of my latest uploads, just go ahead and click here. Until then, I'll see you guys in the next one.